other members of this chamber allegedly involved. Telenovela ang pagsasadula ng PDAF scam, kumbaga. The media have prominently printed screaming headlines that have serialized reports designed to vilify us before the bar of public opinion. Si Senator Enrile at si Senator Revilla at ako ang tila ba inuulam at pinagpipistehan mula almusal, tanghalian, merienda at hapunan. Ito po ang ilan sa maligalig na headlines. 50% ang cut ng senators. Cash ang bigayan. Pork scam aabot sa 100 bilyon. 3 billion pork nasalo ni Y. Corat. Bong Revilla booking sa pirma. At eto pa ho, Congress kickbacks. How much for whom? Solons got 50% of pork. 3 senators amassed 581 million in kickbacks. Mr. President, we have been singled out, as our people should know, in the so-called 10 billion peso PDAF scam. We have yet to be afforded the opportunity to confront the evidence thrown against us. But sadly, in the eyes of the Filipino people, we have already been marked and portrayed as the worst thieves and scoundrels of the government. And just to belabor and drive home this point, Mr. President, even the Commission on Human Rights has recognized what is being done to us. Kamakailan lang, kinundina ng komisyon ang trial by publicity na ginagawa sa mga nasasangkot sa pork barrel scam. On the other hand, Mr. President, Amado Doronilla's column may have sadly and aptly predicted where all these may lead to when he wrote, and I quote, "What is endangered in this mass hysteria lasting for blood without going through due process is that we might be laying the ground for the lynching or sending to the gallows of a fundamental principle of constitutional democracy, a fair administration of justice underpinned by the right to be heard before being condemned guilty." Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, even some of our colleagues here at the Philippine Senate have apparently passed judgment on us. Mr. President, I initially welcomed the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee investigation on the PDAF scam. Sa totoo lang po, gusto ko pong dumalo at mag-participate sa pagdinig patungkol sa PDAF, but my lawyers pleaded with me not to. I heeded the advice of my lawyers. Ngunit, bilang pagrespeto pa din sa pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon patungkol sa usapin ng PDAF, I went to the first hearing and personally relayed that I am inhibiting from the proceedings. At kung inyong matatandaan, bago ako nag-inhibit, personal kong pinabatid sa Blue Ribbon ang kahalagan ng kanilang gagawing pag-imbestiga upang makagawa ng batas na tutugon sa isang mahalagang issue katulad ng tamang paggugol ng kaban ng bayan, kasama po ang PDAF. Nasabi ko po yun sa paniniwalang in aid of legislation po ang gagawing pagdinig. Nagkamali po ako. Hindi ko naman po pipigilan at wala akong balak na pigilan ang mga resource persons na dumalo at dadalo sa pagdinig na magbanggit ng pangalan kung ito ay kasama sa paglalahad nila ng mga pangyayaring na ayon sa kanilang nalalaman. Ngunit, kailangan po bang ulit-ulitin ang aming mga pangalan na para bang bingi o tanga ang mga kausap? O kaya ay parang isang siramplaka? Pakinggan po natin ito.
Yes, Estrada, Revilla, Henry. Okay.
We have Senator Revilla,
Senator Revilla,
Senator Enrile,
Senator Enrile,
and Senator Estrada.
Senator Estrada.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned kanina kasi there's Enrile, Revilla.
I think sila po all their authorized representatives.
Okay, so you mentioned 3 senators, no? Enrile, Revilla, and Estrada, jinggoy. You are, ma'am, let me state, you are very sure of the 3 senators, Revilla,
Estrada and Enrile.
Enrile.
Mr. President, one of our colleagues, during the course of these investigations, even tried to play to the gallery by making snide remarks while asking the witness about the identity of an alias of a senator involved. Why play this up when there have already been reports in the media on this, and which I had vehemently denied? Why play up this issue? He even referred to a known campaign slogan of a fellow senator. Akalain mong sabihin pala, sino yung senador na yun? Ano ba ang slogan na yun? Gusto ko, happy ka? Ano ba ito? Bastusan na ba ito? Alam ko na alam ng mga taong ito na sila ang tinutukoy ko. Ang tanging mensahe ko lamang sa mga taong ito ay sa bawat pagturo ninyo ng mapanghusga at mapangkutyang daliri o hintuturo ninyo ay 4 na daliri ang nakaturo pabalik sa inyo. At mahilig din lamang na mag-quote mula sa Biblia ang isa sa mga taong ito na parang isang maamong tupa. Pag nilayang kaya niya ang mga katagang ito, kung sino mang walang bahid ng anumang kasalanan, kayo ang unang bumato sa taong ito. Huwag kayong magmalinis at lalong-lalo na huwag naman kayong masyadong hipokrito. At matanong ko lamang, Mr. President, bakit ba ho ang direksyon ng investigasyon ng Blue Ribbon ay tila nililimitahan ng komite sa mga foundation na naugnay kay Janet Lim Napoles? Hindi ba't may higit sa 82 ang foundations na nakasaad sa COA report na sinasabing may bahid na katiwalian? Sadya bang nagbubulag-bulagan lang sila kaya hindi nakikita ang ibang nilalaman ng COA report? Katulad ng hindi pagbusisi ng Blue Ribbon Committee patungkol sa pondong inalaan ng ilang mambabatas sa sarili nilang korporasyon o NGO, as blatant and as violative of a law as this. And yet, this does not even merit a mere mention in the Blue Ribbon investigation? Biruin mo, inilagay ang pondo sa isang NGO foundation na sila mismo ang incorporator o board of directors or stockholder. E di parang kumuha ka ng pera wala sa isang bulsa at nilagay sa kabilang bulsa. Hindi po ba, Ginoong Pangulo? At ito pa, hindi ba't paulit-ulit na sinasabi ni Senador Gingona sa hearing ang tungkol sa mga questionableng transaksyon di umano ng mga Napoles NGOs at mga suppliers nito? Bakit hindi niya nakikita o binabanggit na paulit-ulit din sa Blue Ribbon hearing ang mga questionableng transaksyon naman ng mga local government units na siyang nag-implement ng proyektong pinondohan mula sa PDAF ng ilang mambabatas? Ayon din sa COA report, merong 1.2 billion pesos in LGU transactions o local government unit transactions funded from PDAF na hindi po nagko-comply sa procurement law. Ilan sa mga pinanggalingan ng 1.2 billion pesos na ito ay galing sa PDAF ni unang-una Miriam Defensor Santiago, Alan Peter Cayetano, Francis Kiko Pangilinan at si Manny Villar. Bakit hindi po nababanggit ang mga ito? Dahil ba sila ay kaalyado ninyo? Pero hindi ko naman po sinasabi na sila'y nagkasala. Ito po'y base sa COA report na meron daw pong irregularities ang kanilang pinaglaanan na pondo. Ito naman, kumustahin naman natin yung PDAF allocations ng isang kongresista na kapitbayan o kapitlungsod ng pinakamamahal na bayan kung San Juan. At ang pangalawang pinakamataas na opisyal sa lower house. At ang pangalan niya ay si Congressman Neptali Boyet Gonzales Jr. ng Mandaluyong. Si Congressman Gonzales ay mahigit 6 na taon na nanunungkulan bilang congressman. Kaya't masasabi sa loob ng mga taong ito, nagkaroon na siya ng minimum na 420 million pesos ng PDAF allocations. Kaya 420 million yan, dahil 70 million per congressman a year, times 6, 420. I say minimum, Mr. President, kasi majority leader itong si Congressman Gonzales, kaya sigurado ako may natatanggap pa siyang additional mula sa kanilang liderato. Kung susuriin po ang COA report, makikita po sa sarili niyang distrito, nilalagak ni Congressman Boyet Gonzales ang halos lahat ng kanyang PDAF. Sa madaling salita, opisina niya mismo ang implementor ng kanyang PDAF. Kaya naman pala isa si Congressman Gonzales na masigasig na nagsusulong na mapanatili ang PDAF. Hindi ba't nasabi niya kailan lang sa plenaryo ng Kamara na sa mga ayaw ng PDAF, di okay lang. Kung ayaw nyo, wag nyo. Pero maayos naman kayang nagagamit ang kanyang PDAF. Kilong Pangulo, mukha pong hindi. Dahil ayon din sa COA Special Audit Report, 28 supplier ng Mandaluyong City denied having undertaken 167 transactions amounting to 28.74 million pesos. Ibig sabihin, meron 28 supplier ng Mandaluyong ang nagsabi na wala silang transaksyon na nagkakahalaga ng 28.7 million pesos sa siyudad ng Mandaluyong, kaya maaring masabi na ghost projects din ang mga yon. At meron din pong cash advances si Congressman Gonzales na nagkakahalagang 275 million na walang kaukulang pinaglalaanan ayon din sa COA report. Still, according to the COA report, there were transactions worth 263.676 million pesos considered questionable as the suppliers were not legally and or physically existing. Hindi po matagpuan ang mga suppliers. At ito pa ho, maniwala ho kayo sa hindi. Meron pang ang nakita ang COA. 6.6 million pesos worth of transactions sa Jollibee. Ano ito? 6.6 million pesos worth ng hamburger, Chicken Joy, at Jolly Hotdog? Aba, langhap na langhap ang sarap. Hindi po ba? Kung ang isang hamburger ay halagang 40 pesos, 6.6 divided by 40, mukhang kulang-kulang 200,000 hamburger ang binili ni Congressman Boyet Gonzales. At saan kaya niya pinamigay ang 200,000 hamburger? Mr. President, napakalinaw na report ng COA na hindi ginamit sa tama ang PDAF ni Congressman Gonzales. Ngunit ang mga ito ay hindi lumalabas po sa mga pahayagan o hindi napapag-usapan. Ito kaya ay dahil siya po ay miyembro ng Liberal Party? Nagtatanong lang po. Kumusta din naman natin ang kanyang katandem na si Congressman Gonzales, na dating party list representative na si Florencio Noel. Ang party list ni Congressman Noel ay yung tinatawag na Anwaray, na nakabase sa Leyte, sa Samar, at sa Biliran. But it might as well be called An Mandaluyong. Kasi ayon sa COA report, milyon-milyon piso rin ng PDAF ni Congressman Noel ay nilagak niya sa Mandaluyong City. Mula sa 25 million pesos na pondo, sinabi ng COA na 23.9 million pesos worth of transactions did not, I repeat, did not comply with the procurement law. And 19.6 million pesos transactions were with the suppliers of questionable existence. Mr. President, the COA report was likewise peppered with information on anomalous transactions like the 388.3 million pesos PDAF related transactions of Mandaluyong, Taguig, Tarlac, and Las Piñas. Considered questionable as purported suppliers were not legally and or physically existing, cannot be located, or have issued questionable receipts. Ang akin pong mga nabanggit ay ilan lamang sa mga questionable transactions or irregularities indicated in the COA Special Report. At ang mga ito ay hindi po sinasama sa kasalukuyang investigasyon. Sa madalit salita po, there were 356 congressmen, 15 senators, kabuuan 371 legislators were referred to the COA report, were involved in the COA report. Ngunit, bakit kaming tatlo lang ang iniimbestigahan. There is a saying, selective justice is injustice. Now, Mr. President, we go now to the COA Special Audit Report. We in the opposition are also included in the COA Special Audit, but we believe that we have been specifically singled out by the COA. The Commission on Audit finally came out with the results of their special audit covering only, I repeat very emphatically, Mr. President, covering only the years 2007, 2008, and 2009. Pati si COA Chairperson Maria Gracia Pulido Tan ay sumali sa PDAF teleserye ng kanyang inilabas sa media noong August 16 ang resulta ng kanilang special audit. Ito siguro ang pinakaunang pagkakataon na sa media inilabas ng COA ang kanilang audit. Ganito na ba ang kalakaran dyan sa COA? Remember, whatever happened to Commission on Audit Resolution number 97-006, which provides, and I quote, that no COA audit report of whatever nature shall be released to any person until a copy of said report has been officially transmitted to and received by the head of the government agency being audited in the report with sufficient opportunity to explain their side and also to ensure that no fact or data material to the audit finding is omitted in the report. End of quote. The said resolution further provides that since the findings in the audit reports are appealable to the Commission proper, no member thereof may give an opinion, remark, or comment which may cast doubt on the impartiality and objectivity of the member and even cause his or her disqualification from participating in the deliberation of the case for showing undue interest or bias. Nakalimutan na yata ni COA Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan ang resolusyon na ito, because it was before the media that she dramatically presented the special audit report. Inilako at inilibot pa ni Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan ang audit report sa iba't ibang TV stations. Emosyonal at madrama pa nga niyang sinabi na napahagulgol siya dahil sa kahindik-hindik na nakita niya sa COA report. Aba, kahit ako o kayo, baka mapahagulgol kayo kung ang isang report na ibinigay ay hindi po kumpleto. Wala ni piso man lang na disallowance and even violative of COA resolution as to the way it was disseminated. Despite having taken nearly 3 years to conduct, the special audit report was still incomplete in coverage. Chairwoman Pulido Tan said that the audit covered only 58% of the total PDAF releases in the years covered 2007 to 2009 and only 32% of the total VILP or releases to DPWH. Chairwoman Pulido Tan attributed this crudely done piecemeal report to DBM's failure to render the complete schedule of releases under the 2007-2009 PDAF and the infrastructure projects under the VILP of DPWH. Bakit po sa DBM o Department of Budget Management lamang nag-rely si Chairman or Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan? May kopya ng SARO na natatanggap ang COA through its resident auditors at the implementing agency. Hindi po ba? Why not question these resident auditors? Why not include or involve them in the special audit? And why not require them to provide documents as is the common practice? Why not look into the book of accounts or trial balance of the audited implementing agencies? In fact, Mr. President, nowhere can you find in the special audit report of Chairwoman Pulido Tan any mention of the comments or statement of results of the regular audit undertaken by resident auditors on PDAF transactions in their respective areas of jurisdiction. Either Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan is too lazy to do her job, or she is ignorant of the main function of COA, or just plainly clueless as to what are being done by her resident auditors. Noong tinanong kasi siya during the first hearing kung bakit hindi nakita itong sinasabing maling paggamit ng PDAF considering there are resident auditors in every level of governance. Ito po ang kanyang naging sagot. Here was the lame response of the chairperson. I am not really too comfortable as answering that because unang-una po, I don't know that for a fact na hindi isinama. Gusto ko lang pong sabihin na yan ho ang isa sa aking mga binabalak na talaga pong tatanungin ko rin yung aming mga resident auditors noong mga panahon na yun kung bakit hindi po nila nakita. Yun po ang kasagutan ni Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan. Ano daw? Bakit niya ginawa ang pagtatanong nung binabalangkas pa lang ang report? Bakit hindi niya inalam? Bakit hindi inalam ni Chairwoman Pulido Tan sa kanyang mga resident auditors kung may nakita silang mga irregularities during regular audit bago niya inilabas sa media ang sinasabi ng mga impormasyon? Ang totoo po, taon-taon simula noong 2004 ay kasama sa regular audit ng Department of Agriculture ang PDAF na napupunta sa kanilang ahensya. At malamang nasa regular audit din ito ng DSWD, DPWH at iba pang implementing agencies kasama ang local government units. Ang SISTE, year in and year out, pare-pareho ang findings ng auditor na hindi tama ang paggugol patungkol sa PDAF na napupunta sa implementing agencies, ngunit wala ni isang disallowance. Kaya nagtuloy-tuloy ang pagdaloy ng PDAF sa mga ahensyang ito. Kung taon-taon ay kasama sa regular audit ng mga implementing agencies ang PDAF, dapat ay taon-taon din kasama ito sa isinusumiting report ng COA sa Kongreso. It should be remembered that under Republic Act 7226, COA is required to submit to Congress annual reports of amounts obligated, warrants issued, and expenditures made in each municipality, province, and city by national government agencies and instrumentalities, including GOCCs. Did this escape the scrutiny of the powerful Congressional Oversight Committee on Public Expenditures? Now, Mr. President, to further prove the incompleteness of the COA report, consider the following. Number one, per the COA report, total releases for PDAF, VILP, and other sources amounted to 115.9 billion pesos. But of this staggering amount, COA was able to audit only 41 billion pesos. Ano po ang nangyari? At saan napunta ang higit kumulang na 75 billion pesos? Number two, the report said that appropriation for PDAF, meaning the soft projects, for the years 2007 to 2009 amounted to more than 29 billion pesos. And out of this 29 billion, COA was able to audit only 8 billion pesos. Nasaan napunta ang 21 billion pesos? Na-release ba ito? Kanino napunta? At bakit hindi po na-audit? Number 3, the COA report also said that it was not able to establish the total releases for each legislator. Inulit ko ha. The COA report also said that it was not able to establish the total releases for each legislator. Kulang na kulang. Kaya ba ho, 2 million pesos lang ang na-audit kay Congresswoman Henedina Abad, ang asawa ni Secretary Butch Abad ng Department of Budget and Management. 178 million pesos lang ang na-audit kay Congressman Neil Tupas. 197 million pesos lang ang na-audit kay Congressman Isidro Ungab. 351 million pesos lang ang na-audit kay Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. 5 million pesos lang ang na-audit sa PDAF ni dating Senador Mar Rojas. 3 million pesos lang ang na-audit kay Senator Antonio Trillanes. Samantala, ang kay Enrile, kay Revilla at kay Estrada ay binusisi at tiningnan ang kabuuan ng kanilang PDAF. What makes us so special? Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan. Napaka-special naman kami. Number 4, the report was peppered with remarks such as unidentified legislator. It was not able to identify the legislators behind the 69.2 billion pesos in infrastructure projects and the legislators behind the more than 1 billion pesos PDAF releases. 70 billion pesos ang hindi malaman kung kanino napunta. Hindi ba dapat malaman ng publiko kung sino ang mga mambabatas na ito? Hindi ba talaga ma-identify o ayaw lang talagang i-identify ni Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan? O sadyang ayaw ibigay ni Secretary Abad ng DBM ang listahan sa COA? Number 5, the report also said that it is a government-wide performance audit. Yet, it covered only 3 national government implementing agencies, namely Agriculture, DPWH, and DSWD. 5 provinces, namely Tarlac, Bataan, Nueva Ecija, Compostela Valley, and Davao Oriental, and 9 local government units. Paano nila nasabi na government-wide ito? Obviously and pointedly selective ang biased ang audit na ito. Hindi po ba? Again, I say, selective justice is injustice. Mr. President, our people should know that curiously, even the report of Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan during the first hearing of the Blue Ribbon Committee on the PDAF scam was deliberately selective and again blatantly incomplete, just like her special audit report. Bakit ko po nasabi ito? Una, the special audit report covered 82 NGOs, 82 NGOs, to which PDAF was transferred by the implementing agencies. But what was conveniently presented by Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan during the hearing ay 8 lamang. She even classified these 8 NGOs as Napoles NGOs. Wala naman po akong nabasa sa special audit report na ganitong klasifikasyon ng NGOs. Paano? At saan kaya niya nakalap ang ganitong impormasyon? May first-hand information kaya si Chairman Pulido-Tan sa mga NGOs ni Ginang Napoles? Pangalawa, the special audit report also covered PDAF releases to 371 legislators. Yet, during the hearing again, Chairwoman Pulido-Tan conveniently mentioned and repeatedly named only 4 legislators. Again, Enrile, Revilla, Estrada, and Donasan. At ang nakakamangha dito, noong ipinababanggit na sa kanya ang iba pang pangalan ng mga mambabatas, tinanong ni Senador Nancy Binay kay Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan, sino pa ang mga mambabatas na itinutukoy mo sa iyong committee report? Ano ang ginawa ni Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan? She suddenly excused herself. Biglang nahilo si Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan at umalis ng Senado. We therefore ask, why, Mr. President? Why the propensity for selective reporting? Why are certain pieces of information readily released while others are conveniently kept? Mga kababayan, ito po ang kopya. Nandiyan po ang kopya ng COA Special Audit Report. More than 450 pages all in all. And nowhere in all these pages can you find a single peso of disallowance or even a suspension. Ito po dapat ang nagpahugulgol kay Chairwoman Grace Pulido-Tan. Di ba nga? At sinabi ni Chairwoman Pulido-Tan, nakahindik-hindik ang nakita niya sa report? Excessive releases, anomalous transactions such as bogus NGOs, non-existent beneficiaries, overpriced inputs. Bakit wala pong disallowance galing sa COA? No single peso disallowance. This, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as our people must know, is the most blatant inept defect in the special audit report. Given that under the Constitution, the COA has the exclusive power to disallow expenses, and given the plethora of cases decided by the Supreme Court upholding the disallowance made by COA, bakit walang ni piso na disallowance dito sa audit ng PDAF? There were also no recommended realistic and effective measures to enable the government to recover government funds allegedly wasted on anomalous transactions by the implementing agencies and LGUs. Very clearly, Chairwoman Pulido-Tan failed to obey the constitutional mandate reposed on COA, and that is compliance audit focus on public accountability that disallow irregular, unnecessary, excessive, and extravagant or unconscionable expenditures or uses of government funds, and also the fact that she violated and continues to do so COA Resolution 97-006. Chairman Pulido, Chairman Grace, gumising ka na. Mukha yatang lagi kayo na-jet lag sa kababiyahe nyo sa ibang bansa. Lagi ho siyang wala rito sa ating bansa, Ginoong Pangulo. Noong 2010, 5 beses siya umalis ng ating bansa. Noong 2011, 9 beses. At noong nakarang taon na lamang, 2012, 10 beses. Halos buwan-buwan ay umaalis siya. At ito lang taon nito, hindi pa natatapos ang taon. 9 beses na siya umalis ng ating bansa. Hindi po ba? At mukhang mapapahugulgul din tayo rito. Kaya po siguro mukhang hindi nyo natututukan at nababantayan ng husto ang paggawa ng special audit report kasi panay ang biyahe ninyo. Hindi po ba kaya hindi rin kayo nakadalo ng ilang pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon Committee ay dahil sinabi nyong hindi polite pag hindi kayo ang personal na magpunta sa New York? Balita ko po, pwede naman pala hindi kayo magpunta doon for our candidature sa UN Board of Audit kasi kayang-kaya naman gawin ng mga tiga DFA at ng ating Philippine Mission sa New York ang pagkampanya na sa Nobyembre pa naman ang botohan. Chairwoman Grace, gawin niyo po muna ang maayos ang inyong trabaho at hanapin ang 69.2 billion pesos unaudited releases noong taong 2007, 2008, and 2009. At tapusin niyo na rin po muna ang pag-audit ng mga pondong inilaan noong 2010, 11 at 12. Huwag muna kayong bumiyahe sa ibang bansa. Ito muna ang inyong atupagin. At ang isa pang hirit, patungkol sa COA, Mr. President. Since when did COA ever start to have its audit findings validated by a broadsheet? Kahindik-hindik kasi ang statement ni Chairwoman Grace Pulido Tan ng kanyang sabihin sa isang pahayagan. Inquirer validates our findings. It's providential. Is this the kind of commission on audit we have now? Commission on audit pa nga ba? O Commission on Accusations na ang ibig sabihin ng COA? At ang ibig sabihin naman ng SAO, dapat Special Audit Office na nagsagawa ng audit. Dapat yun, Selective Audit Report. Now, Mr. President, at the very heart of this issue is the allegation that Ms. Janet Napoles and her bogus NGOs cornered a huge chunk of the legislators' PDAF allocations. It is also alleged that we, the legislators implicated, knowingly allocated funds to these alleged bogus NGOs. Worst of all, we are also accused of pocketing commissions from Ms. Napoles in exchange for channeling our PDAF allocations to government agencies at her behest. Plainly stated in Tagalog, ninakaw ni Ms. Napoles ang PDAF gamit ang mga peking NGOs at pinaghatian ito ng mga mambabatas at ni Ms. Napoles sa halip na mapunta sa mga tunay na proyekto. Kaya ngayon, Ginoong Pangulo, anumang pagtanggi namin at anumang pagpapaliwanag namin ay hindi na pinakikinggan at hindi na matanggap ng galit nating mga mamamayan, ng galit nating mga mamamayan dahil nakondisyon na ang kanilang paniniwala ng walang humpay na istorya sa media. Hindi pa man nagpapasya ang mga naatasan ng ating Pangulo na suriin ang mga testimonya at magsampa ng kaukulang kaso base sa ebidensya. Nahusgahan na po kami ng walang kalaban-laban, lalo na ng makapangyarihan mga alagad ng media. Ginoong Pangulo, masakit, napakasakit at mabigat ang mga paratang na ito. Ngunit higit na masakit ay ang kawalan ng katarungan at walang habas na pagdidiin at panggigipit sa amin sa isang hindi patas na paliwanagan. Nasabi ko na at nasabi na rin ng aking mga kasamahang na pagbibintangan din na handa kaming humarap sa anumang investigasyon. We stand by this, Mr. President, and we remain accountable for our actions as elected senators of this chamber. At yaman din lamang na kapwa senador at kasamahan dito sa Senado mismo ang nag-iimbestiga para umano malaman ang punot dulo ng sinasabing katiwaliang ito, at yaman din lamang na humaharap sila ngayon sa ating mamamayan bilang tiga-usig para malaman ang katotohanan. Marahil, Ginoong Pangulo, napapanahon na rin upang ilahad at malaman ng lahat ang ilang katotohanan na hindi sinasakop ng media ukol sa tinatawag na PDAF o pork barrel. Kung talagang sincero at seryoso tayo na itama ang mali at isaayos ang tiwali, nararapat lamang na malaman ng sambayanang Pilipino ang buong katotohanan sa likod ng PDAF. Here now, Mr. President, as our people must know, are some ugly facts and information on the PDAF that our people must know, and which I challenge anyone in this chamber to deny. We all know that the executive department wields the power over the release of PDAF allocations. During the administration of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, it was a known fact that those who were not friendly or allies of her government had to beg for the release of their PDAF and infrastructure funds. Some of you, or some of us, just totally gave up and chose not to avail of our allocations because we knew, or they knew, that they will not get any releases because we are from the opposition. We know too that the executive has used the releases for PDAF and infrastructure projects as a form of reward or incentive to secure the support of legislators for or against certain pet legislations or for other political purposes. Much has been written about how former President Arroyo used the PDAF to prevent several impeachment cases against her from prospering the House of Representatives and thus never reached the Senate. Mr. President, even DBM Secretary Florencia Abad's text message warning that there will be no releases to certain congressmen if they did not vote in favor of impeaching former Ombudsman Merceditas Gutierrez was very much publicized and confirmed by a number of lawmakers. As expected, Secretary Abad had to deny that he sent those text messages. At noong kasagsagan ng debate sa syntax bill, Ginoong Pangulo, naisulat din sa mga pahayagan na nag-aalok ang Secretary ng Presidential Legislative Liaison Office o PLLO sa mga kongresista ng release o mga saro para maipasa ang panukalang batas na yun. Hindi po ako bumoto sa syntax bill. Kaya wala po akong saro. Ganon din ang mainit na balita noong tinatalakay ng Kongreso ang kontrobersyal na RH bill o Reproductive Health Bill. Again, I voted against this measure. Kaya wala po akong saro. Ito po ay mga nalathala sa mga pahayagan. Hindi na tuloy nakapagtataka na kumalat ang balita na mga kongresista at mga senador ay inalok din ng PDAF para siguraduhin ang impeachment at conviction ng dating punong hukom ng Korte Suprema. Hayaan ko na po ang taong bayan ang gumawa ng konklusyon kung ito ba ay totoo o hindi. Pero ang may dadagdag ko lang na kwento. After the conviction of Chief Justice Renato Corona, way back May of 2012, those who voted to convict Renato Corona were allotted an additional 15 million pesos. That was provided in a private and confidential letter memorandum of the then chair of the Senate Finance Committee. Ito po ang sulat. Private and confidential. Ang tanong lang ho, saan galing ang pondo? Saan galing ang pinamigay na pondo sa mga senador? Siguradong sigurado ako. Alam na alam ni Secretary Abad ang sagot sa tanong na ito. At sigurado din ako na hindi unilateral decision ni Senate President Drilon ang mamigay ng 50 million pesos kada senador. Mr. President, I maintain, however, that I stand by my decision in my vote to convict the former Chief Justice and assure our people that I was never or was not influenced by this incentive which came after the fact. But another fact, Mr. President, which was confirmed in an interview by no less than former Budget Secretary and now Congressman Rolando Andayo Jr., is that 200 million pesos for each senator and 70 million pesos for each congressman in annual allocations are only minimums. Andaya said in the past that there was no rule setting a maximum amount that a legislator can receive in pork barrel funds. It all depended on the leadership of the Senate and the House, and of course, Malacanang. What we had was a minimum amount. These were Andaya's own words, not mine. So in effect, he practically confirmed that the executive allows legislators to avail themselves of allocations over and above the reported amounts. So, if we scrutinize the GAA or the General Appropriations Act or the budget law taon-taon, mula 1999 hanggang 2010, walang makikita na probisyon na nagsasabing magkano ang kabuang PDAF at VILP ng mga mambabatas. Sa GAA ng 2011 lamang nagkaroon muli ng malinaw o specific provision on PDAF and VILP allocations. Ang tila hindi malinaw na sistema at tila sikretong kalakaran kung magkano talaga ang PDAF na natatanggap ng bawat mambabatas ang marahil dahilan why the DBM refuses to render a complete account of releases to all lawmakers as requested by the COA. Pati ang DBM website ay hindi rin po kompleto. It only provides information on PDAF releases from 2009 onwards. Bakit wala ang 2006, 2007, and 2008? At iba pang mga taon. Pag binuksan mo naman ang 2009, yung mga releases ng PDAF para kay Senador Biason, kay Senador Rojas, kay Senador Pimentel, kay Senador Escudero, kay Senador Trillanes, Senador Manny Villar, are among those conspicuously not posted. Wala ho silang nakukuha raw PDAF. Bakit hindi po pinopost ng DBM yung amount ng kanilang PDAF? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe our very own Senate President also acknowledged in an ambush interview that the release of the legislators' PDAF lies solely at the discretion of the executive. The senators who served as heads of the Finance Committee of the Senate, notably Senators Manny Villar, Edgardo Angara, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, and the Senate President, all know that the budget negotiations they conduct with the House and the DBM include negotiations not only for the PDAF and the infrastructure projects of legislators, but also for the so-called congressional initiatives or budget insertions. At one point, when Senator Edgardo Angara was chair of the Finance Committee, I remember he even advised the senators in a caucus that there was a so-called economic stimulus fund where legislators from both houses were allowed to avail allocations for projects over and above the regular pork barrels. Thereafter, we were all asked to submit our listings to the committee. Am I accurate so far, Mr. President? At sa sarili kong karanasan, wala nung ako'y mahalal bilang senador noong taong 2004. Ang mga opisyal ng Senado at ng Kongreso, wala sa Senate President, wala sa Senate President pro tempore, Majority Floor Leader, hanggang sa Minority Floor Leader at Chairman ng Finance Committee, ay nabibigyan din ng karagdagang alokasyon taon-taon. Alam ko yan dahil naging Senate President pro temp ako. Hindi rin lingid sa kalaman ng lahat ng senador na para mapabilis at maipasa ang budget proposal ng administrasyon para sa susunod na taon. Pinakikiusapan po tayo na huwag nang masyadong busisin ang budget, ay pagkatapos nun ay magpaparelease ng SARO pagkatapos maaprubahan ang budget. Yan ang kailangan malaman ng taong bayan. Foregoing considered, I challenge now the Senate's Legislative Budget Research and Monitoring Office, or LBRMO, under Director Yoli Dublon, to disclose in full not only the PDAF allocations, but all these budgetary amendments or insertions and extra amounts authorized by the Finance Committee Chair for each senator over the years, starting from the 12th Congress up to the present. The LBRMO provides the research and staff support for the Finance Committee, but its real boss is neither the Finance Committee Chair nor the Senate President. They serve the Senate as an institution. So I am very confident that Director Dublon, who has served under so many Finance Committee chairmen in her decades of exemplary service, will respond to my call to bear all these facts. I likewise challenge Secretary Florencio Abad of the Department of Budget and Management na ibigay sa COA ang mga dokumento upang makumpleto ang pag-audit ng 115 billion pesos na na-release noong 2007, 2008, and 2009. Hinahamon ko din si Secretary Abad na ilantad sa publiko ang mga dokumento patungkol sa mga additionals, sa mga rewards, o sa mga suhol para sa mga mambabatas. Nakakapagtakang napakatahimik ng DBM sa gitna ng usapin patungkol sa PDAF. Napakahalaga ng papel na ginagampanan ng DBM, kaya dapat sila ang nangunguna sa pagtatanong kung saan napunda ang inilabas nilang pondo, hindi ba? All of us are now deluged with so many requests for funding of projects and financial assistance from local government executives, political leaders and supporters, and our constituents. They come to our offices for help. I and some other senators have consistently allocated part of our PDAF for the benefit of indigent patients seeking medical attention in government hospitals like the Philippine Heart Center, the National Kidney and Transplant Institute, Children's Hospital, Orthopedic Hospital, the Philippine General Hospital, and even hospitals outside of Metro Manila. But of course, Mr. President, none of these is good copy or juicy talk, because the current attention and fixation is on the Napoles issue instead of serious and disturbing developments unfolding in our country like in Zamboanga. Sino ba sa atin dito sa Senado ang hindi nakakatanggap ng dagsa-dagsang request para mabigyan ng PDAF? Lahat ba ng nag-iimbestiga ngayon ay nakakasiguro na hindi nasasayang, nabubulsa, o nadadivert ang kanilang inilaang pondo sa kamay ng mga ahensyang pinagkatiwalaan ng DBM na humawak ng pondong ito? May isa bang makapagsasabi na napakalinis ng paggamit ng kanilang PDAF para magkaroon sila ng karapatan sumali sa pagbabato ng putik? Mr. President, the media frenzy, the cry for blood, and for heads to roll has reached much intensity that it seems impossible for those implicated to be given any just and fair treatment. Justice Secretary Laila de Lima said that once they are done reviewing the affidavits and testimonies of the so-called whistleblowers. Then all those implicated will have the opportunity to file counter affidavits. And then based on the panel's review of these, they will decide if there is probable cause to file appropriate charges against some respondents based on evidence. Ginoong Pangulo, sa kakaunti kong nalalaman sa batas, yan po ang proseso. Sana nga po may tunay na hustisya. Sana nga meron pa rin ang bawat isa sa atin ng karapatan ng lahat ng inaakusahan sa ilalim ng ating saligang batas. Meron pa ba kaya ngayon presumption of innocence pagkatapos ng paninira at panlilibak na sinasapit namin ngayon? Katulad nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, selective justice is injustice. Na-mention ko rin lang naman ang pangalan ni Secretary Laila de Lima, Mr. President. I received reports that the second batch of case that the DOJ will file would still pertain to the PDAF-related transactions with the alleged na policies and bogus NGOs. And after this, DOJ will just let the interagency body created by the President to investigate the whole gamut of the so-called PDAF scam. Should this be the case, Mr. President? Sadly, it will only confirm and validate our belief that all of these are politically motivated, and it would appear that the government is not really sincere in reforming the system. Mr. President, I believe that we all here are victims of a flawed system which is so ingrained that it has been institutionalized. However, the recent events which unfolded before us have given us the chance to finally reform the system and do away with the pork barrel mentality. There has been clamor from the people to abolish PDAF and to hold accountable those who have bastardized the system for their own vested interests. Ngunit, sa gitna ng lahat ng ingay at sigaw ng sambayanan na baguhin ang bulok na sistema, naway marinig pa rin ang tinig ng mga nauna ng pinaratangan. Bigyan naman sana kami ng pagkakataon na linisin ang nadungisan namin pangalan at harapin ang mga nag-aakusa sa amin sa tamang panahon at sa isang pantay at walang kinikilingan na hukom. At kapag nabago na ang bulok na sistema, naiwasto ang tiwali at naitama ang wali, doon pa lang natin masasabi na tunay na ang tweed na daan. Maraming salamat po.
President.
Senator Soto is recognized. And
Mr.
then
President,
Senator
before I ask the distinguished gentleman to yield to some few questions, may I ask for a few minutes of suspension, Mr. President?
Suspended. Yes, yes.